If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another album review for you guys. The final album review I'm doing for this weekend, as I am talking about a debut band, a new band that formed just a few years ago out of Portland, Oregon, Paraphilia, with The Memory of Death Given Form. So yeah, this is a new band that just started not too long ago, and this is their debut. Released independently on just by themselves. It's out on CD and digital. Don't think they're doing vinyl or cassette for it. But it's a death metal band, and I do love me death metal, so I was curious to check this out. And this might be a shorter review than most, just because it's like, this album, if there are three things I could say to describe this album: Riff City, chugs, and dissonance. Like, holy crap. There's some badass death metal riffage going on here. Lots of chugs, lots of dissonant riffs going on. Like, pretty much all of these songs incorporate some aspect of all those songs, or of all those elements of riffs, chugs, dissonance. Starting off with, I'm going to have to try my best to remember how to pronounce these, choruscation. Starts off with like some gross riffs, and even at times gets a little bit thrashy, and then you get this like little surprising melodic break, which there are a few tracks on this album where you get these like quick melodic breaks, which is completely different from just the brutal onslaught you're getting here. Then there's even like riffs coming in here on this track that kind of remind me a little bit of Hate Eternal a little bit. And then Stelliferous Unmaking begins with like eerie ambience before you just get into some riffs and blasts that almost made me think of either Immolation or even Morbid Angel a little bit. And this is the one song on the album where I heard like pig squealing vocals, which I know for some people that's a turnoff. I don't mind pig squeal vocals. I think they sound fucking funny and awesome at the same time. Virile Entropy begins with more sinister riffs that have a little bit more of a melodic character to them, which I thought was very different from the other two tracks so far on the album. And then it just kind of grooves along with blasts and chugs. And then even like the lead work on this album as a whole was done more tastefully, not so much about shred, but just more to complement the atmosphere of the songs. But like here on Virile Entropy, the lead on here has a little bit more melody to it and has a little more sinister touches towards the end of the lead. Supernal Rebuke, immediately chug and dissonance, but I love how they use it to build atmosphere. And then you even get like this fading atmospheric lead in the background. But the song itself, towards the end, kind of gets a little bit like Cannibal Corpse, but with a thrashy break at the end. Like, it gets really thrashy at the end. And then you get to the title track, which has the most thrash-forward parts to it. Like, there's just lots of thrash beats going on here. Well, actually, no, the final track before the cover song, that had more thrash to it, but it's like the second half of the original track started to incorporate a little bit more faster speeds, thrashy moments. But yeah, in the title track, starts off with like a sick groove and a riff that reminds me a bit of Bloodbath, which I'll talk more about Bloodbath in just a moment. And then, even for like a few moments, you get a doom break in here, which was pretty cool, and then you get like more pinch harmonics going on with the guitars. Then we get to Fanatical Imperative. It starts off with like quick-fire tremolos and blasts before it starts really getting thrashy. This is the song that has the most thrash energy laced throughout. Kind of similar to Cannibal Corpse again, but with more dissonance on top. Like, again, those dissonant riffs just are everywhere on this album. And then it turns a little more dark and sinister towards the end, and you even end with a piano, which was unusual. And then the final track, they do a pretty solid cover of Bloodbath's Eaten, which they do it in their own way with like a little more gain on the guitars and a little blast beat at the end, where in the original there is no blast. And no screaming vocals on here, it was just all low guttural growls. But yeah, like I said, Riff City, chugs, and dissonance is basically the mode of this album. Now, I would compare a lot of the riffage going on this album similar to, say, Slave to the Scalpel by 200 Stab Wounds. It's all about catchiness and groove, but also bringing in some more thrash moments, and at times gets a little bit more tremolo picking on the guitars. But the difference between 200 Stab Wounds and Paraphilia focuses more on dissonance with some of these guitar lines. Now, the production is fucking gross. Like, the guitar tone on this album is crushing. The bass tone is filled with pus and filth. I don't believe there's a drummer on here. I think it's programmed drums, but you wouldn't know that unless I told you, because they do sound kind of like real drums. Even if they're programmed, it was done very well. Solid breakdowns all throughout. Occasionally gets a little bit kind of like slam death metal at times. The vocals, absolutely disgusting and brutal. Now, as far as some complaints I might have, some of these songs do kind of follow a similar formula, and also there are a lot of bass drops on here, like for dramatic effect, and I thought they were doing that a little bit too much for my taste. Like, I don't mind bass drops when they mean something. Here, you got them pretty much on almost every track, and it did start to get old after a bit. So maybe on the next album, whenever they do another album, maybe cut down on the amount of bass drops that you do, and just focus more on atmosphere building, and keep going with Riff City and chugs and dissonance, but cool it on the bass drops, at least in my opinion. But overall, I thought for a debut, this was a pretty good debut. I give this one an 8 out of 10. I think this band has potential to kind of break out and get to do some pretty cool tours with some bigger bands, or even fellow upcomers that are really starting to make a buzz right now. And hopefully a bigger label will pick up these guys, like, say, Metal Blade, or even like a Maggot Stomp, or a Century Media, or Redefining Darkness, Hell's Headbangers. Some label out there that has a good financial background. I'd say pick these guys up and give them a chance. I think they are worth it. But yeah, 8 out of 10. And that does it for my review of The Memory of Death Given Form by Paraphilia. For those of you who checked this album out, what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, you people out there, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.